It's 7 p.m. on Monday, February 27th. My name is Charles Thomas, along with Mark Wallace, and you're listening to The People Show on Intellectual Radio. Every week at 7, Mark and I chop it up. Right, my friend?
Good evening. You can also call in and chop it up with us on our live line at 708-223-8953. We'll be here till 9 p.m. Talking about the issues of the day. And the most current issue is the mayoral election.
Yeah, is there any other issue tonight? I guess there are, and we will get to those. But
yeah, but I don't think there's anything bigger.
I was. It was a lazy Saturday morning a couple of days ago, and I was laying in bed and I was thinking about having to go vote this weekend, and I thought about voting and my thoughts on it. I grew up in the 1950s in a former slave state, Missouri, where you really couldn't vote if you were black.
Not that long ago.
Not that long ago in my lifetime. And I can remember when I was like 8 or 9 years old and my parents went out to vote. And they were voting. They wanted to get to the poll to vote for John Kennedy, this young senator from Massachusetts, because he had some good things to say about what had happened in Little Rock a couple of years earlier when they integrated the schools. And this young candidate, John Kennedy, the senator from Massachusetts, talked about the need for a civil rights bill in the United States. And so my parents went out to vote. And I don't know if it was the first time that they actually went out and summoned up the courage to vote, because in those days, if you were black and you showed up to vote, I mean, white folks, nobody knew what they might do. In fact, the vast majority of us in the country could not vote because the vast majority of black people lived, of course, in the South, where they were forbidden the right to vote.
In those southern states, yes.
Right. And in fact, the largest concentration of black voters was right here in the city of Chicago on the South Side, where the first black congressional district post-Reconstruction was founded, and Oscar the Priest. Mm-hmm. And he, of course, was followed by Arthur Mitchell and Big Bill Dawson, Ralph Metcalf, and on up through today, where Jonathan Jackson is now the first district representative. But, I thought about that. We couldn't vote. And my parents, when they came back from voting, myself and my brothers and sisters, I mean, we were relieved that they got back. And they were heroes. I could go to the barber shop and I'd hear the old guys talk about voting. They talk about, yeah, I voted. And it was a badge of courage that you actually went to the polling place and cast a ballot. And I'm talking about Missouri in the late 1950s, early 60s.
That was all over the South. I mean, and when you mentioned the time, it's just not that long ago. It's not that long ago. We're talking 70 years?
My lifetime.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it seems to be there's a reverberation of trying to make that more difficult.
Well, they said they were doing that in Georgia, but
more
did. People voted in Georgia this time around after the new voting law than voted before the new voting law. So I think a lot of it is rhetoric.
Not a lot of it.
I hear him say, I know, well,
but the number of people who did not vote that could have voted was over 1 million. And so 1 million fewer people that would have voted prior than to the law.
Georgia?
In Georgia, yes.
Well, I didn't, but I thought more people voted in the primary and general election in Georgia after the voting law was passed. And I didn't.
To the last election.
But, the thing is, have you ever heard, I have never in my life heard of any black person, if I can keep it there, any black person whose right to vote was challenged even, let alone denied, I don't know anybody. I can't, and I covered news from, the East Coast to the West Coast to, of course, the Midwest, and I've never run across a person who has said to me they were denied the right to vote or even had their right to vote challenged. I never heard of that person. I haven't met that person yet.
Well, there are over 700,000 of them in Florida. There is over 700,000 of them in Florida.
Are those the convicts?
That were denied the right to register to vote.
Well, those are convicts?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
I'm totally
okay.
I think that you should be able to vote if you're sitting in the prison.
I agree with you. First of all, I think
but
the idea of some person being a citizen just because you committed a crime, and let's assume they committed a crime, you got tried, and you were convicted, you're still
we're on
a
the same
citizen.
page. We're on the
Okay?
same page.
So
with
this
that.
idea
But-
of
but
a person losing their rights.
But I'm thinking about
yeah.
people who are not allowed to vote because they are black. I haven't met that person yet
Yeah, Charles,
who has told me that
they don't write it on the board.
post the Voting Rights Act. Now, of course, that was happening all the time prior to. But since then, in my life professionally, and I should probably date that to the early 70s, my life professionally and covering a lot of politics, I never met one black person who was denied the right to vote because they were black.
Well, denied the right in terms of somebody's putting it up on a board or saying to you coming to the door that you can't vote because you're black.
Right. Which happened back in the day.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen in that form. It's happening in a different form these days with these new attempts.
I want to meet the people, man. I'd love to do some
suppress.
interviews, sit down with them and ask them what happened.
You and I need to go down
hear
to
from
Georgia.
them.
You and I need, let's go down to Georgia.
We're talking about
Let's-
going to Mississippi,
We're
man.
going to go there. We're going to have to make that trip and talk to some of those people. And you got to go down to Florida and to some of these areas where it is, people's polling places have been moved and in fact closed that they can't get to them to go vote. So I was talking to some of the people who were actually had to get buses to drive down to Georgia in this last election so that people could actually get to the
They
poll.
got there, though.
Caravans.
They got there.
But 1 million fewer people got there than would have gotten
But
there.
I thought, even 1 million fewer people.
1 million fewer
Yeah, because
people got to vote that
you
would have
think
voted.
Stacey would have pulled it out had those people been allowed to vote?
I would like to think so. But I can't say that.
No, man.
I
I
can't
just
say
don't.
that.
To me, I see a lot of like the president. I think in the last week, a couple of weeks, he actually said that there were people out there still who wanted to lynch or hang, burn at the stake, and castrate black people. The president of the United States said that.
I believe it.
But do you really think that's a problem?
I believe
Is that
it.
a problem for black people right now? That we have Klansmen out there riding around, taking people off the street, stringing them up, burning them at the stake, or castrating them. I haven't
Well, you're using
seen the news report.
You're using some pretty
president said
extreme
that.
ideas.
The president said that.
Well,
He's the
listen,
one who listed the crimes
listen.
that these people commit. And I'm saying that he's
Are you saying that it couldn't happen?
Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that he's using that in order to motivate his electoral base. And they're doing that. They're actually fueling racial problems and racial divisions for political purposes. And I think that to me is abhorrent.
I don't think anybody is doing that
I think does it all the time.
I don't think. Well, I haven't
They're
finished
gonna
my
put
statement.
y'all back
I haven't
in
finished my statement.
chains.
Well,
Remember that one?
the Republicans are the ones who
Republicans
passed
aren't saying
200.
anything.
200. You're talking
They aren't
about
saying
200.
anything about
Yes,
that.
they have 273
No, man, but the
laws
Democrats
that they're
seem to
trying to
be
pass
using that,
to suppress
using
the
that
vote.
race piece
Well, the
in
Democrats
order
are just
to
exposing
motivate
the Republicans.
their electorate. And I
Well,
think
they're supposed
it's
to.
a problem.
No, it's not a
they're
problem.
not. They should
No, it's not a
basically think about the good of the country as a whole.
Yeah, well, the
and
Republicans
not
should do
start
that.
The
Republicans should do that.
If you can find ways for them to do it,
I wish I could.
But I'm saying that
their
when they
souls
start
need to be
talking about
saved.
calling people racist all
Well,
the time
they are
in order
racist.
to gin up the vote, and then doing nothing.
I don't
for
think
black
you have to
people
call
on the
people.
side.
I don't think you have to
No,
call
I
people who
can't.
are racist when they advocate and promote and push 273 voter ID laws. When the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, the next day, Republican legislatures all across the country passed 200 or put forth 273 voter suppression laws.
Well, I mean, that's that. I just see what happened in Georgia, and I'm going, well, and I think that people come out to vote. I know in Illinois, black people come out to vote. That there's nothing here to stop anyone black from voting.
Because we don't have any voter ID. We don't have any voter suppression laws here.
And you don't have any in most states.
If you had yes, you do.
In most
Republican-controlled legislature,
really,
they have passed voter
I haven't
suppression
done the research. You obviously have.
I want
but
you to
I'm
go do
saying
the
that
research.
I'm living in Illinois. I don't find there to be that problem, and I don't think
because
what Joe Biden is talking about
Illinois is largely
happening.
Democratic control.
Concerned. Look, I'm more concerned when I'm walking down the street in Chicago in my life. I'm more concerned about, the legendary Pookie and Ray Ray coming to jack me and putting a pistol in my face. I ain't worried about the Oath Keepers or the Proud Boys or the Klan. I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the crime that is being committed against regular law-abiding people in Chicago, and black people in particular, in large part, a lot of the crime committed by our own children against us.
Yeah.
So that is a bigger problem to me than what
crime,
Joe Biden was talking
about. Most crime that's
committed
to each other, white people commit crimes to white people, black folks commit crimes to black people.
Black people commit a lot more to crime in Chicago and Cook County than white people. Come on now, Mark.
I think
let's be real. We're not going to solve it unless we confront it.
No, hold on a second, Charles. Hang on a second. We're gonna talk about it, but truthfully. It is not that it's just black folks. It is just that it's black folks that is reported. Now, if you go and no, don't laugh. All you have to do is read.
All you got to do is read.
No, read the statistics, the real statistics that show.
So you tried to say to me that black people are not committing, and let's talk about violent crime, because that's the one that we.
Well, Chicago is a new code word that they like to use.
But that black people, young black men, are committing most of the crimes. I can't help that. That is the reality.
I think you need to go read the report from 1980. I think you need to go read the report.
Today, are most of the carjackings, or is there some egalitarianism or equal opportunity to carjack? Who's carjacking who?
If you show me, can you show me that black folks commit more crimes than white folks? Can you show that to me?
In Chicago now?
No, I'm talking about across the board.
I don't know about across the board. I don't have that kind of experience. But I am saying that here in Chicago right now, we have a problem with young black men in particular committing the lion's share of the violent crimes, particularly the homicides, the shootings, and the carjackings. Young black men are doing it. Look, I'm not proud of that. I don't want that to be the case. I want to find a way to stop it. But that's who's doing it.
Well,
I can't help that.
If they really wanted to stop the idea of what crime and violence are coming from, they do something, because everybody from Chicago to Philadelphia to Detroit to Florida, wherever you want it, whatever city you want to name, but Chicago is like the new code word for people.
I live here, man. It's got to be the code word for me. Hey, man, let's move on. Let's move on. This mayor's race, you voted. I haven't voted yet. I've said here many times that when I do vote, I'm voting for Willie Wilson. I don't know that Willie's going to make the runoff, but as far as the candidates and looking at all of them, I like Willie. I think the real race is going to be for second place. We talked about that last week.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, the real race is going to be for second place.
Yeah.
And Paul Vallis, I think, by virtue of who he is demographically, is going to win.
Because he's going to win the plurality of certainly of the white vote. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And because I think a lot of it has to do that he styled himself early on in the campaign as some kind of conservative, when I think he basically is very moderate. But at the
We
same
don't know what
time,
he is because he's
I
bending
think,
himself like a
well,
pretzel.
but I think that the second place finisher is actually going to be the favorite in the runoff. Would you agree?
I would agree if they're running against Paul Vallis. Absolutely.
Yeah, because the
Absolutely.
progressives, I think,
Yeah.
will be able to pull the progressives together so that, and they are the majority, of course, obviously in
Mhm.
Chicago. And that second place finisher, man, that's going to be
Well,
interesting.
I hope it's Brandon Johnson. I voted for him yesterday. My wife and I voted for him yesterday. So I hope that he is. And I went back and I did some more homework on that phony story that they put out about Brandon Johnson suggesting raising taxes on people of $100,000 or more. Found out that the Chicago Sun-Times actually had to retract a story that they put out.
That was a Fran Spielman interview, I believe.
Yes. Mhm.
That's where I heard him say
Yeah,
it.
so they had to retract. They had to retract that that story, and they tried to tether him to the United Workers Federation, and even tried to say that they're the ones that wanted that. And when I spoke to their spokesperson, they said no, we were supporting the progressive income tax, which was the gradual state income tax that was on the ballot in the last election, that had 6 tiers of the state income tax that went from 4.7 up to 7.75, depending on where your income was, and the higher income, higher income, 400 to 500, 600,000, would pay their fair share of taxes. So this was a phony story that was put out. And one of the things that I just, you have the right, and I will defend that to the end. You have the right to support whoever you want to support, but putting out phony lies is just not tolerable.
I will say that Brandon, if he does get into the runoff, it's going to be an incredible race. Brandon Johnson versus Paul Vallis, if that is the case. But I will tell you this: Brandon, in his years as an activist, as a one of the leaders of the Chicago Teachers Union, has said some things on video about taxes, about education, about a lot of different issues where he has been way to the left. There is fact, I don't know if you saw the documentary that the Illinois Policy Institute recently aired or whatever, or they published it online.
The conservative publication.
But whatever, but whatever. But
Well,
they
I think
have
it's just
but,
for full
listen,
disclosure.
listen.
You need
Well,
to,
of course.
to make sure it is.
I mean, I was
Right.
on the documentary, my brother.
Yeah.
I was actually one of the spokespeople on the documentary. There is on that very show, that program, that Brandon is talking about. He's talking about being a good socialist and how the members have to become more radical. And there's a lot of radical things that he said on his radio show that aired for several years on WCPT. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Progressive Radio?
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff right now is being gathered to deal with Brandon Johnson, and it's not going to be good for him. He's going to have to basically back off a lot of the rhetoric of Jackson Potter and Jesse Sharkey and such guys that he was hanging with for a long time at CTU. He's going to have to somehow explain that to middle class homeowners in Chicago, because they're going to say he's the candidate of the CTU. He is the candidate that will allow CTU to basically take over the fifth floor. And that, well, I'm just telling you what the narrative is going to be. That will be the narrative of the opposition. And you can handicap it now and tell me how he will get around that. I don't think it's impossible for him to do it, because again, Chicago is a very progressive city. And the CTU has a lot of support within the city of Chicago. But that's going to be the campaign.
Well, that'll be the campaign, but I think that his plan, his platform is what he has to explain what he has to defend, and that it, what somebody said, because that would be the same for Lori Lightfoot, Paul Vallas, Willie Wilson, hunt him down like rabbits, Chuy Garcia, Sophia King, all of them probably said something
but
that somebody can use. What I'm just simply saying is that if everybody is going to be determined,
the runoff.
well, if everybody is going to be determined by everything that they said, that is going to be the determiner of the election, then everybody would have to be in the same boat.
But they said, but Brandon is on tape. He's on tape at several points during the past 5 to 10 years as an organizer, more so than as a candidate.
Yeah. Well, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that.
How about Lori, man? What about Lori? How do you think she's going to do?
I think that Lori is in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that Lori is in trouble, and she's earned it. She's earned it. She's in trouble. I can't think of. I think that Lori, for a person that has been an incumbent, I think she's missed great opportunities, because as an incumbent, you shouldn't have as hard of a time as she's having with the opportunities that were before her, that she just missed. So she did it to herself. She did it to herself. Lori spends all of her time throwing stones rather than defending her record. And that usually means that you don't have a record to defend when you have to throw stones. So, and you're the incumbent, because the incumbent really can talk about the things that they have done.
But there's a certain part of the electorate that goes out to vote.
Yes.
They vote religiously, but they don't read or pay attention.
That's most of the electorate.
You think so?
That's most of the electorate.
Wow, man. Most of
the electorate are not doing what you and I do.
But when you say that, that says to me that Lori Lightfoot, the mayor, that's the name people have heard, because she's been the mayor. So does that mean she's going to conceivably win 20% of the vote just with that group?
Yeah, probably because she's the incumbent, and because she's able to go around with aldermen that are water carriers and people who are just traditionally with whoever the mayor is. They're going to go out to their constituents and say, this is why you should support this mayor, or if you support that person, they're going to do X, Y, Z, to bring out the boogeyman for you. So they will use that, and they are using that. Like yesterday, she still continued to put out this false story that Brandon Jackson was going to raise your taxes. Brandon Johnson was going to raise your taxes.
He
$800
said
million.
He's going to raise some taxes. He just, I think
he didn't say on ordinary people that he was going to be raising taxes.
Has been on who? But he said the word raise
in
the same sentence as taxes.
But it's in his plan, and it's not problematic when you read it, because he's talking about the transaction tax, which is a tiny fraction that will raise hundreds of millions of dollars.
How many is that? That are not tiny fraction on who?
On the wealthy, those who are making trades.
What do you mean? What is calling tiny fraction?
I think that there was like this point, a half of a cent, right, on certain trade, and it's not on all trade. A half a cent, not a half a percent.
Well, what was the half? You mean a half of 1 cent?
Yes.
No, Mark, that's not true. You mean a half of a percent of a 0.5% raise in a tax that's already a couple of points or whatever.
No, there is no tax on any trade.
Oh, on what?
There's no.
You mean on
a transaction tax?
I thought you were
financial
talking
transaction
about
tax.
The real estate transaction tax.
Financial transaction
Brandon
tax.
has also promoted an increase in the real estate.
He has promoted a increase on the transaction tax on higher properties over $1 million,
but which is not much.
Okay,
in places like Lincoln Park and the Northwest Side.
$1 million. But
you talk about that transaction tax.
Mm-hmm.
The whole rub with that, and it's a great idea. I mean, I think Preckwinkle talked about it a couple of years ago. Other candidates, Chuy talked about it a couple of years when he ran in 2015. The problem is, and it's going to be a problem that has to be resolved by the courts. If these financial firms leave the city of Chicago,
No, it's not happening.
and that is their standing threat.
Not happening.
Whether it, well, I mean, I hope you're right. I
Not
hope you're
happening.
right. If one thing happens, I hope you're right that they don't leave. But if you go to LaSalle Street today,
And
they're
it's not the
talking
courts
about
that have to do it.
they're
It's the
talking
legislature.
now about LaSalle Street becoming a residential area because a lot of the financial firms post-pandemic are not coming back. So,
But they're still doing their trading.
well, they're doing
still
their
doing
trading, but
because
at the
it's-
same time,
it is
they
because of
can
the
do their
location that they
trading.
have to
They
be.
can do their trading any place. I think the
No.
pandemic has shown
No.
that they can do their trading anywhere in the United States, including Indiana.
No.
And I think, well, you say no, but
No.
this is what they say. I'm telling you what they say.
Their
say,
physical bodies
"You
can
do
be in
that,
Indiana.
We're gone.
Their
Huh?
physical bodies can be, but
Yeah,
they're not
their physical
moving.
body can be in
but they're
Palm
not
Springs,
moving.
California.
They're not moving their operations to
Well,
Indiana.
but you
They're
don't
not
know
moving their
that.
operations.
They say
to,
they could.
they
I mean, what's his name?
it's
just
not
left.
happening.
Paul, what's the guy, the richest man in Illinois, just pulled out and took his multi-billion-dollar, not only personal worth, but even much larger billion-dollar business to Florida.
Yeah, bye bye.
Citadel. It's
Bye-bye.
gone.
Yeah, bye bye.
It's gone.
And
I know,
guess what?
yeah, but
And guess
you know,
what?
you
Guess
don't
what?
want those people leaving
But guess
in
what?
mass.
He is. That's the strong and great thing about Chicago and Illinois. It is not dependent upon any one person.
It's very diverse.
Bye-bye.
You're right.
So folks, don't be alarmed because what's his name?
Ken Griffin. That's
Ken
the guy.
Griffin. Bye bye, Ken.
Ken left
yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
He left
Bye
last
bye.
year and went to Florida.
And guess what?
A lot of
You
the
couldn't
other
ask any one
folks
person.
Are talking about that.
But-
This is the sword that they rattle.
I bet you
Now,
couldn't go
whether
and
or
ask
not
any one
they'll go
person
through
if
with
they
it,
miss Ken
We don't
Griffin.
know. But Brandon's got to be elected first.
Yeah.
First and foremost, Brandon has got to be elected and then try to do this. And I
Mhm.
think that with the new makeup of the city council in Chicago, this mayor could be, if it's Brandon Johnson, he could be a monster.
Well, let me just tell you this
He
about
could, because he will have at least 15 to 20 avowed socialists on the city council that
Yeah.
can basically
I know,
do
like
a
people
lot of
like
his
to
bidding.
use that buzzword, socialist.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, they call themselves that. I didn't call them that.
You know what?
They call
Everybody
themselves that.
here is a socialist
In
in
some
part,
respect,
in
you're
some
right.
respect.
Everybody
okay?
enjoys
So,
different aspects of
yeah.
socialism.
Yeah.
I get that Social Security check every month.
And-
Shows up
and-
right
and-
deposit in my, and that's
Right.
socialism.
And you get
That's
to and
socialism.
you get
I'm
to
down
use a
with that.
fire department, a police department,
highways.
interstate highways.
All
So
of it.
I know people like to use those buzzwords sometimes, but like you said that you don't know one person who has been denied the right to vote. I bet you if you walked and asked a bunch of people, do you know who Ken Griffey is? And they
Who?
were like, you're talking the baseball player
Ken Griffin.
or whatever the guy's name.
Oh, the guy that moved.
that moved.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about the
Yeah.
jobs that he took with him. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
care
well,
about
nobody's
him.
going to miss him.
I'm talking
Nobody's gonna
about
miss
the
him.
jobs that
Do you
know,
realize
that
that
he
people
took
have
with him
been
to Florida.
leaving? People have been leaving Chicago
by the droves.
for the past 30 or 40 years. Before,
Really,
even
but
before,
But
even
by the
before,
last 5 to 10, it's
even-
really
no.
accelerated.
no,
They're
even
moving to the
before. You know
suburbs,
what?
man. You're
More
moving to
people
Madison.
left before Harold
Rich
Washington
Township.
got into office than are leaving now. Did you know that?
I did. I mean, I haven't done the numbers, but if you say so, I would believe that. I know that right now we have an exodus that's occurring, and Black people in particular are not necessarily leaving the state. They're going to the suburbs.
Mhm.
A lot of them are going to the suburbs because of the schools and because of the crime situation. Did you see the numbers about the 50 schools in Chicago? It's 50 some schools in Chicago where they have students that don't read. 100% of their students do not read at grade level or do math at grade level. 50 schools in the city.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you have used the CPS board has used our public commons for their own private hustle. I can agree with that.
Isn't that something though, man?
You know, that is happening within the Chicago public schools, which I think needs a tremendous reform of those people who have pimped and prostituted that system for their own personal gain, the same way that we have people who have pimped and prostituted the police department and the fire department and all of our public commons, that we, the taxpayers, have not gotten the benefit of those uses.
I think anticipating a campaign between Johnson and Vallis, can you imagine the back and forth those guys are going to have about, well, the union did it. No, the administration did it because you were that. I mean, this could be a wild campaign if Brandon Johnson is able to pull it off.
Well, I hope that Brandon Johnson is able to, that people give him the opportunity to compete, and then give him the opportunity to be the mayor, because I believe he has a great potential to be a good mayor. I'm never going to say who is going to be great again, because that just it just leaves to be evaluated later on, right? So I thought that Mayor Lightfoot was going to be a different from what we've had, and she turned out to be not much different than from what we've had in the past.
Yeah, she had a tough road too. I mean, you know, she had to be the mayor during the worst of the pandemic.
Yeah, but you know what?
Her
personality and her unwillingness to listen to other people. If you are going to be the person in government leading a governmental body, you have to listen to some other people and give some other ideas a chance to work. She's had more of a turnover in her administration than any other administration in the history of Chicago.
Let's talk about Chewy for a minute. You know, Chewy, I don't know. It's almost like the progressives abandoned Chewy. I mean, they trotted him out in 2015 to face Rahm, and then now he's sort of like out there on his own. He's got not much behind him.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, that he basically abandoned them.
That's what they're saying, but
you know, and I don't see of anything that he can really say of late in the recent years that he has done to try to cultivate that relationship, or he can fundamentally say, well, I did X, Y, Z as a Congress representative.
We could have stopped your sentence a bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen anything he has done.
Right.
I mean, whether cultivating or whatever.
Right.
What has he done? Except
his own community. His own community are not rallying behind him like people thought. I mean, I think that there are 5 or 6 Hispanic representatives that are endorsing Brandon Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you're right. What can we say, or what has Chewy done that would give people any type of motivation to support him?
But I'm telling you, I mean, he is a sitting congressman. I mean, that's enough of a credential to do something. And in this particular case, you don't need to win a lot of votes.
Right.
I think the second place finisher in this will probably finish somewhere around 20% of the vote, because keep in mind that, of course, that part of it is being divided in so many different ways, but you don't need a lot. So can a sitting congressman muster 20% of the vote? Can a CTU-backed candidate muster 20% of the vote? Can an incumbent, that's really pathetic, can an incumbent muster just 20% of the vote, Lori? And then,
I mean,
yeah, it's tough.
I heard her say, I've never heard an incumbent say what I've heard her say this morning. She said that she was the only candidate in the race that could beat Paul Vallis. An incumbent said that. It's supposed to be, this is the only other person.
Hey, man, she
right?
said a lot of things.
I mean,
she said a lot of things.
You're speaking from a position of such weakness to say that.
But look at what she said about, if you don't vote for me, then don't vote.
Yeah.
I mean, that, and then of course, everybody still talks about her her body parts, and all that.
That
Alleged
nonsense.
body parts.
And
I
then
mean,
she says she started talking about telling Paul Vallis that he needs to stand up and own what he has said. And the reporter said, and of course she had to say, and that just a month ago, Lori Lightfoot said what she said about that any vote that is not a vote for Lori Lightfoot is a vote for Paul Vallis. And if you're not, stay home. You shouldn't even vote. And she tried to make excuses for that. And then this other thing where she sent out emails to CTU teachers, Chicago public school teachers, to have their kids to work for her campaign. Then she wanted to say that it was a blip and then change it to say that it was a staffer. I mean, that's not taking full responsibility. I mean, it's hypocritical. So I think she's got a lot of problems. And again, I think it goes back to she is not willing to listen to anybody else. She wants to just run things as a dictator. And you can't govern that way. You have to trust the people around you and trust that they have their ears to the ground and they're feeding you information and guiding you in the right place. I mean, I go back to, she came to the south side of Chicago and called a neighborhood something different than it was all throughout her speech. And that is an absolute no-no in Chicago to call their neighborhood something other than what it is.
In their neighborhood, that's a cardinal sin there.
Yeah,
definitely.
But it just shows that you're out of touch with the community that you're supposed to be representing.
And then my man, Willie Wilson, he is the true sleeper here. Willie's going to get his votes the same way he's gotten his votes in the past. Willie is getting into some of Paul Vallis's pile.
Mm-hmm.
And how much he can do that will determine whether or not he can pull through this. But I hear a lot of frustration on the part of Vallis's core support because Vallis has been doing some things that basically have turned off a lot of the conservatives, and I'm calling them conservatives. I know you don't like labels, but in the city. And when he does things like he criticized, was it Ron DeSantis when he came to Elmhurst and gave a speech?
Yes.
He said that the FOP shouldn't have done that, he's gotten into some. He's running right now for the runoff. He's campaigning for the runoff, and he's doing it so soon that it's hurting him in the first round. And those people against whom he's hurting himself. A lot of his voters are peeling off and moving to Willie Wilson. I don't know how many, but it's out of frustration
and
with
distrust.
Paul Vallis and the fact that Paul Vallis is a politician, and politicians say what they have to say. They look at the numbers and then they mold their message. And Paul is definitely a politician, and I think that I don't know how much. It's going to be interesting to see tomorrow night.
It really is going to be very interesting to see, and I think that there are going to be some great surprises in the lineup. I'll tell you one person. Well, let me just finish with Paul, and then we'll go over to Sophia King because I want to talk about her. Paul Vallis has been campaigning for the mayor race for the last 4 years, but campaigning on WCPT. He's been a weekly guest on Joan Esposito's show every Wednesday for the last 4 years. And then all of a sudden he's being, this candidate for the conservatives. So, and then, right. And then he, gets into a tizzy and spins himself like a pretzel. He's doing the same thing that Mitt Romney did to himself when he was running for president. Nobody knew who the heck he was, right? So nobody can really trust you. So you're going to lose people. And I think that when you're running for any public office or whatever, you have a value system, whatever your values are, you need to be true to who you are. And some people may not necessarily agree with you, but maybe they can trust you to hear you because they know you're consistent and that you don't change like some sort of caterpillar, depending on what ground you're on. So I think that's Paul Vallis's problem.
So Sophia King. What about her?
I really see a lot of Sophia King now because I don't watch traditional television a lot. So I watch a lot of different television because I get to watch news from all over the country. And I have this Roku television, which you can get all these different locations of news to see what's happening in the country. She is on almost every other commercial on this. Pluto is one of the those things. She's on those streaming networks. I really, it's unfortunate that we don't hear more from her because I think that she is one of those who will probably not do as well as she should do.
Absolutely.
Because she doesn't have the floor or the exposure.
I agree with you 100%. I believe that she thought, I think she knows she might be better qualified to be mayor than all these people.
Probably.
And I think she knows that. And I think that she was hoping that the powers that be could realize that and do the right thing. I think she was expecting to get some help that didn't come. And I don't think it was necessarily from the Obamas. That's the immediate knee-jerk reaction that the Obama machine, if I can call it that, only because I don't have another better word, I'm not being pejorative, that didn't really coalesce around her. I think she was expecting maybe the governor to help her out. But I think the governor's playing it smart. He's not getting involved in this until the runoff.
I think he's playing it very smart.
Yeah.
I think he's playing it very smart because he just doesn't know like the rest of us.
Right.
Don't know what's gonna happen here, and let the primary, the de facto primary play its way. And I like the idea that even though they got rid of the primary, that we have one because of where we are.
But, I guess it's a primary, but it's not a party primary.
No, it's not a party primary, but it's a primary. Let the people get out there. I know that there are Black people all over, and I was been hearing this about, talking about, all these Negroes dividing up the vote and to let the white man get in there and all that kind of nonsense. We had the same thing in the last election. I don't have a problem for people participating in the democratic process. You want to participate, you have every right to do so. I'm not going to tell you that you cannot do it.
But you look at a guy like Roderick Sawyer. I mean, Roderick, he's basically wasting a lot of time. I mean, he doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the political wherewithal on the ground.
No.
So what's the point of this other than to, I guess, be a player? But
I think it's a graceful. I think it's his graceful way, or his way of thinking that he could gracefully say goodbye to the city council. I think he should have just said, "Listen, I'm not going to run for another term." I think he's been there 4 terms or something like that, 3 or 4 terms. So he's going to get his pension and retirement, and that sort of thing.
Why is he meddling with this?
I don't know.
Then you got your boy Jamal.
Mm-hmm.
Jamal Green, I mean, who I think has acquitted himself quite well as a young person. But what is he serious? I mean, he can't believe that in this city, he is going to be the mayor of this city. I mean,
somehow he thinks he's going to turn the young voters that have not voted, and he is having a groundswell of young voters that are going to turn out. That has not bode to fruition.
I learned that the hard way in 2019 when I supported Amara Inya to be mayor, because it was all part of an effort to get young people engaged.
Mhm.
And I signed on. I mean, for that reason,
I
to
supported
get
her
young people
early on.
engaged.
Yes, I supported her early
And
on.
I tell you, I don't know what it is, but they simply didn't respond.
And we thought that there was every reason for young people to get involved. There were a few things that were happening that they were demonstrating about in real numbers. And we thought that young people were going to turn out to the polls, and it just did not happen.
And she had some money. She got some money from what, Chance the Rapper?
Yes.
And she got some money from somebody else. Somebody else gave her some. Oh, Kanye gave her some money. So she had like $500,000, which is 50 times more than Rod Sawyer
Mhm.
has, and more than Sophia King has now. But they just did not respond, and I don't know what we do about that. How we
I don't know what the answer is to it. I've tried to have, you know, involvement with young people and even some of the young organizers that were organizing the people of that demographic. And it just, I'm not sure what it is that doesn't translate from all of the emotions to actually real action, getting them to go to the poll and cast a ballot. I'm not sure if they really believe in the democratic process. I'm not sure if they really believe that if they go out and they vote, that somehow that's going to translate to impacting their lives. And then, you have this group that, they want it all right now.
Yeah.
Right. They want the microwave right now. And it just, we know that things happen incrementally. And I think that that's probably a bigger part of them not really understanding how government works. So I wish I knew what the answer to getting them involved, because boy, if they got involved, maybe it is because they don't understand the power that they could wield. Maybe.
I don't know. I kind of think that it's a question of, you mentioned something that was rather nuanced in what you just said about, I don't know that they really understand the system because they aren't taught it. I mean, you don't have
Sure.
civics classes anymore.
Civics and social studies is a thing of the past.
Right. You don't have that.
Right.
I don't think they teach responsibility. I run into it with young journalists all the time who believe that they should be advocates.
We should ask the question, why is civics and social studies not taught in our schools today? We should be asking those questions. Why?
We should, but going back to what I was saying is that they don't even understand journalism. They don't understand what it is and the role of it in a democratic society. They, for instance, this whole business of canceling people because you say something that they don't agree with, you get canceled and you are no longer part of the conversation. And that happens a lot. And it happens.
You mean like the cartoon
Whatever.
Character guy who said that white folks need to get away from black folks?
Whatever. I mean, this whole business of canceling people, a lot of young people agree with that. They don't feel that you have the right to say what you want to say, and that and in some cases, I mean, it's defensible, I guess. If somebody goes out there and says, "Let's kill all of these people because they are bad people from the devil or whatever," no, you shouldn't be allowed to say that. I mean, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's been carried on to an extreme where if you say that you are um, anti-abortion, that somehow you're a bad person. And wait a minute. I mean, maybe people are driven for different reasons. You can't just cancel people, but a lot of young people, and I've talked to them because they come to me and ask me questions about the profession. And I'm going, whoa, you mean that you wouldn't allow a person to come to your campus to speak to you about abortion because they were against abortion, that's a bad thing, or that they had some question about LBGTQ and you can't raise your own questions because they might be rooted in your faith. You can't say that on this college campus because you're a racist or you're a homophobe or you're this or that. The labeling, the name calling, it's a lot of young people are into that. I mean, I sit back and I'm appalled, but they think it's perfectly normal. And they think I'm out of line if I should say something that they don't agree with.
Well, listen, you have a right to say most things, but it just because you have a right to say it doesn't mean it's the right thing to say to somebody. You have the right to your own beliefs. Everybody has a right to their own beliefs. But just because we have a right to our own belief does not mean that it is right for, everybody else.
But if I say to you that I don't believe that men can get pregnant, I don't believe that. I don't believe that to my core.
Mm-hmm.
If I say that to certain people, I can say it to you, but I say that to certain people. Oh, you're a anti-trans person, or you're a whatever label they'll put on me, and we don't want to hear from you ever again. No, you're not going to write an op-ed in this newspaper because we believe that men can get pregnant. It's that kind of thing that's going on that I think has really hurt the conversation in the United States. And going back to the original point, a lot of young people believe that that's the way to do things. And that's the way we're going to make it into a better, more tolerant society.
You mean to do things in terms of saying that people
that you can't go out here and say or misgender someone. You can't if you misgender someone, that's a bad thing. And if you do it twice, you're out of here, pal. You're going to refer. I mean, there are editorial boards of newspapers and television stations that say, if this person who's 6'4", 215 pounds with a penis and has a 5 o'clock shadow, but a wig on and a dress, I have to call that person a woman. And because that person identifies as a woman, and the editors at the newspaper will say, no, that's a woman, and you don't, and it's none of your business to try to explain that she transitioned into a woman or whatever. She's a woman.
Well,
period. Okay. That's it.
So if that person has gone to a court and they have followed the petitions of the law, you don't have to agree with it. We don't have to agree with the moral sense of it. That might, but that's just our beliefs. But if that person has gone to a court and has followed our laws as it relates to their name and their identity, and a court has evaluated and deemed that person to be another name from what they were, then that's who they are legally. So that's how they have to be addressed legally. You don't have to believe that they are, but if that's what has happened legally, then they follow the law. So they have to be addressed that way. What's the problem?
Well, I think part of the problem is just like me saying that I was, if I were to tell you that I was, I don't know that I was 25 years old. I believe I'm 25 years old. Can I not be 25? Can I, because I say to you that I'm 25 years old, does that make me 25 years old when I'm actually 72?
No, because
the law, I'm 72. I got a gray beard. I've got all the, I'm creaky. I'm older, but I can't, there's certain things
creaky?
that I can't change. Yeah.
What is creaky?
That means that I'm an older guy. Okay. I'm old. I look old. I'm there. I'm not 25. You can tell that I'm not 25, and I'm telling you.
But you can't go to a court and have a court to redate you. You can't
have a court.
You can't go
reorganize you physically.
No, you can't.
No, you can't.
Well, you can be medically. You can be medically. operated on, and they can remove, genitals. They can't
Right, but when they
change
did,
your
I mean, they said that Bruce Jenner
your
didn't have that,
biological.
and he still, he didn't go through the.
So he's what you call a transvestite.
No, he's a transsexual. Transvestite is a person that wears the clothing associated with the opposite sex.
Right. Okay.
Opposite sex.
Right.
Who knows what that is anymore?
Okay.
But I mean, I just.
Well, you
it's
said
a
he didn't have the
situation.
surgery.
Yeah,
Did he have the surgery?
The original point. I don't think he had surgery.
So he
But
just right now he wears
he
women's.
takes hormones and all
Okay.
that, and had some breast implants and
Okay.
did a lot of other stuff. But my point was that a lot of young people today will cancel before they have a conversation, and young journalists in particular, which is really frightening to me.
Why is this
they
a big
don't-
deal?
Huh?
Why is this a big deal?
It's a huge deal.
Why?
It's a huge deal because I think to some of us,
Why?
it's a huge. Well, I mean, if I have a 14-year-old, 15-year-old granddaughter
Okay.
who goes to Evanston High School who participates in sports.
Mhm.
Can a boy come participate?
Oh,
Because
you
he
mean
says that
that's
he
different.
says, why is that
That's
different?
Well,
Why
what do you
is
say?
that different?
But I'm saying to you, there are these areas that I don't believe that men should be in certain competitions head to head with women,
Well,
right? Like
you
I don't believe
and
that women should be playing football against
right, but check it
men.
out. But my point is, there are young people
Mhm.
that we were talking about earlier, why they aren't
Yeah.
participating, who will call you as some kind of uh, anti-trans bigot. Yeah, there's a good word, bigot, because you believe that, and some of these people are actually want to be journalists. And I'm going,
Mhm.
whoa. You mean to tell me you can't tolerate a different opinion? That's like when a
How can you be a
spokesperson-
journalist and not
I know.
be open to a different
I
person's
know, Mark.
perspective?
That's what troubles me. And this is the same generation that's not voting, that doesn't want to hear it, that doesn't want to talk about it, that doesn't want to have a conversation. I know that it just frightens me that we have this kind of
Well,
mindset.
I don't know.
I think
listen, I think my position on that, be whoever you want to be. It's none of my business. Be whoever you want to be. As long as whoever you want to be doesn't infringe on my life. Be whoever you want to be. I don't care.
What if it does infringe on your life?
How can it?
Well, because I just made you an example. I have a 15-year-old granddaughter. What if some guy wants to get on the field hockey team and play field hockey against her, and the Evanston School District or whomever or whatever school district says, yeah, we're going to have people who identify as female can play in the female sports programs.
Granddaughter,
Whoa.
you don't have to play. You don't have to compete in that if you don't want to, if you feel that is a threat to you. You don't have to compete. It's up to you whether you want to compete or not.
Why should she be put in that position? Why should she be put in that position? Because this person has
take her out and take her to another different school.
Problem with their own sexuality or gender. They have the problem, not her.
Mhm.
She claims to be what she is, and what they always claim that she is. She's a female.
Okay.
But why should she have to deal with that because of some wokeness about the situation?
Oh, now don't go there, Charles.
I'm going there, man, with the woke situation.
Yeah, we need to be woke.
This is all woke stuff.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Let's go back to our original point.
No, I want to finish. I want to finish this because there are. I don't run away from anything. There is a in tennis. I'm a tennis player now, 52 years. Mixed doubles.
There's always been mixed doubles.
There's always been mixed doubles, right?
Yeah.
So in certain areas, I think that there is a healthier competition, right? But you certainly can see even in tennis, that there are where there are focuses on the female player when they think that they are the weaker of the two players,
Brother, I
right?
play tennis.
So,
I play tennis, a
um,
lot of tennis in my life. I know the drill.
right.
And mixed
So,
doubles, if you have a guy who wants a person with who is a born male who is going to be the female in the mixed double, I guarantee you the man and the trans are going to win against the man and the woman over there. Nine chances, you know that. You know that. But that again, man, I did not even want to open this bag of worms in that way. I'm just trying to talk about what young people believe. And
but I
what
think
they
you're
believe is
talking about more
different than
what
you and
people
me.
want to talk about. I think again, it is okay for you to believe whatever you want to believe
I do not
about
agree with that.
about you. It's none of my business.
Oh, I do not agree
It's
with
none of my
that.
business to
Because
moralize on you.
it can become part of your business.
Why?
Well, it can become part of your business if in fact someone teaches at my child's school that a man can get pregnant.
So,
And I don't believe that.
so
I don't believe that as a parent. And as a parent, I have control over my children and what they are taught. And if they want to
take
tell
them out
you
of
that
that
a
school
man
if that much
can
of a
become
problem.
pregnant, I'm not going to have them teach that
Okay,
in my
fine.
school.
Take them out of that
No.
school and take them somewhere else.
And that's what a lot of people are doing. But if it's a public school, why should I have to do that? I don't sit there and do stories about Noah's Ark or Adam and Eve in the public school. Do I believe? Yeah, I believe that. I believe the story of Noah's Ark. But I don't believe that story should be taught in a public school because that's based in my religion.
Right.
That is a basic thing. So I'm saying that this secularism that is occurring in education, where they think they can teach you that a man can become pregnant. Wait a minute, that can't happen. You gotta be a female. You gotta have a uterus. You gotta
where
have
is that where is that being
well,
taught?
there was a huge scandal, not scandal, but controversy in Florida when they had what they called it, the "Don't Say Gay" bill. That was a misnomer, but they did that, and there was a huge controversy over it because a lot of parents did not want their children taught this gender stuff, this woke stuff, when they were in first, second, and third grade or something on one of the grades. They didn't want it taught that early. You can teach that later, but not in the primary grades. They didn't want it done. I didn't think that was unreasonable. That wasn't unreasonable. And because I don't think it should be done, as far as I'm concerned, does not make me a bigot. It just makes me a parent who doesn't want to bring that to my children at this age. And if anybody brings it to my children, it's going to be me. It's going to be me,
well,
not
Charles,
some teacher with purple hair.
Well, let me say this. Let me say, Charles, before your granddaughter gets to school, how old is your granddaughter?
She's 15.
She's 15. Well, let me help you out, old man. Your granddaughter knew about a whole bunch of that stuff before she stepped foot in those schools.
Well, you know that.
Yeah, with all the access. Hold on a second. With all the access that your granddaughter had to cell phones and technology and all that sort of stuff, I promise you that she didn't go to school and there was something new.
Got it. I get that. Look, man, I believe that. And right now, I think there are people in Washington right now who are talking about banning children under 16 from the internet and controlling what the information that they get. That's another whole conversation that can be had. And I agree with you that there's a lot of stuff that's going on. In fact, I know that in Evanston Public Schools, they have a unit that they educate, and they have a program of LGBTQ studies.
Listen,
they do that. I mean, they do that in school districts all over the country.
My mother has gone on to be with the Lord last year, and the year before that, I just found out last year that my great niece had, finally came, out to say that she has never felt comfortable being a little girl and wearing little girl clothes and all that sort of stuff, right? And she was just nervous as all get up as to how
old was she?
the family was, that she finally came out and told us.
How old was
I think they told me that she was 13 or 14,
Okay.
that she had started. I just found out. She's now 18. Right. So I just found out about it. And then they told me this funny story about how she was feeling, nervous about telling this, I guess, because of the way that, some parts of society makes people feel. And she was having some angst about, my mother, how my mother would feel. And so one day they were sitting on the couch, and she was having a conversation with one of my other nieces about it, and she said it to my mother, and my mother said, "Well, look, you're just gay, and that's just it. Okay, so you're gay. All right, that's your business."
Yeah, but check it out. But what if she said that she felt like, and this is not your niece or whatever, but generally speaking, what if a child at that age, 13 thereabouts, says that I feel I'm a boy and I'm in this girl's body. Right now, there are movements, and I think in California you can do it. That child can get counseling that could lead to having her breasts removed or having hormone treatment without her parents' consent. Now, wait a minute. I ain't with that at all. Ain't happening. In fact, the governor in this state signed a bill last year that will allow an underage girl to get an abortion on her own without her parents' consent. That happened in Illinois. I'm not with any of that. That's wokeness. I get it. That's wokeness, but I'm not a woke parent. I don't want to be a woke family member.
Yeah, okay.
I want control over what happens to my child.
Well, I don't think that
you in a public setting, would be at a school or a public hospital or whatever, have a right to do anything, to say anything to my child that I don't agree with. Basically, I just do not agree with it. And I gotta get there. I'm not there yet.
Well, let me tell you something, Charles. You probably need to, get some rest and get there, because your grandchildren are having these conversations long before they get to the classroom.
Absolutely.
So the classroom is not teaching them anything new. And your grandchildren, your grandchildren are getting along with people who are transgender, who consider themselves to be, whatever they are. And guess what? They get along fine with each other. They don't have any problems because somebody else decided that that's what they identify with. It doesn't change who your grandchild is. It's not going to convince your grandchild that, I think I'm going to go be like them. Your grandchild is going to be just fine. I think your grandchild would say to you, what does she call you? Papa? What does she call you? Granddad? Whatever. Okay. She would probably say to you, whatever she calls you, chill out. It's okay. I'm fine, Granddad.
But I would suggest to you, though, your family, that, that when you have a 13-year-old, all I can say is parent. Be family and parent, because that, if anything is missing, particularly in our community, is parenting. Parenting has gone by the wayside in our community. We've talked about this here, and we're not parenting our children. 80% of them now are growing up in single-parent households.
I just saw a poll today that 65% of males, black, white, whatever, 65% of the males under the age of 30 say that they are not involved seriously with someone or even thinking about getting married.
So what's the
65%? So, but
Maybe they should be.
They're saying
Maybe they should be.
yeah,
And
well,
that-
but
and
you know,
maybe
this
we
is
need
not
to
just
start
this is not
spending
something
time.
that just isolated
Maybe
to
we
black
should
folks.
start spending time telling them that you got a much better chance of making it in this world, and your children will have a much better chance of making it in this world if the two of you who brought the child into the world parent it on a daily
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Most people
and
are.
what we have is a horrific crime problem.
Most
out there
people
right now.
that's not
And
that
no,
most
it is rooted.
is
We
not
look at
it's
our
not rooted
penitentiaries.
into what's happening
What about
at
our
home.
penitentiaries where 97% of them
The
do not have a
underpinning
male role model?
underpinning problems with crime and violence has nothing to do with somebody who is raising their children on their
something to
own.
do.
Okay.
It has something
It doesn't
to do with, not everything.
it's the
It has
majority
something
of
to do
what
with
has
it.
to do with that.
No, it has
The
something to do with
majority
it.
of
I don't know if it's
it,
majority,
yes, it
minority,
is, Charles.
or whatever.
Unless you
but
don't
it
want
has
to, if
something
you don't
to
want
do
to
with it.
accept the, if you
I
don't want to
can't.
accept data,
I'm not gonna. This isn't data. but
okay,
you
it is. It is data.
Show me the data.
It is data.
Where is
It is data.
Call it up.
That the
Call it up.
underpinning, I can pull it up in,
Call it up. Call
in
it up, my
15
man.
ways to
We
Sunday.
got time. We got
But
another
there's,
45
I will
minutes
pull it
here.
up. The underpinning problem to crime in most cities around the world has to do, and it's inextricably
up, my
tied
brother.
to economics. Okay,
Okay,
it's
fine.
not it's not
You know, the
tied
thing about
to
it,
what you're
if
saying
we-
that it's
if
to
a-
black
if a
folks not
man and a
parenting their
woman-
children.
If a man and a woman raise the child together
Yeah,
in a
well,
single household,
Black men will
the
have more of a chance
economic
of raising
situation
themselves than
will
if white folks stop
improve.
incarcerating them
Okay.
and
whatever,
profiteering
man, they
on
get
incarcerating them.
incarcerated. It's all a big cycle.
Well, then
But
okay.
we have
all
to
right.
begin to address that. We have to incentivize
What do you
people.
mean begin to? Who is
we
we?
have to be black folks.
Well, black folks
we
have
have to
been black folks
incentivize.
black folks has been interested in raising their families since the beginning of time.
Absolutely. We
okay?
used to do it much better. We used to be 80%
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
our children
When we
raised
weren't
in
being
two-parent
incarcerated
households.
for walking down the
Now-
street.
Well, we're doing that now. Do you think it's better now than it was in 1923?
No, because you're
You think it's 1923 again?
well,
Man, you all
yeah,
can sit here and
they've
talk
they
about
found
how
out
bad
they
things
found out
are.
reason they found out
Man,
reasons
Is
they
it
found
bad?
out
Is it
reasons
as bad
and
as
ways to
1923?
incarcerate black folks
Is it bad like that?
disproportionately. It's worse.
Do you think they did? You think it's worse
It's
today
in terms of
than it was in
incarceration.
1923?
In terms of incarceration,
Really?
in terms of
Really?
incarceration
Incarceration, man. You know, there's
of black folks.
There's a man of black folks. You ever heard of the farm in Louisiana?
Do you
Parchment
realize that there
Farm
were
in
only
Mississippi?
160,000 black
Man.
men in prison in 1980?
Wow, man.
Did
Really?
you know that?
You know, hey, whatever. I mean, but I'm saying that
Do you know how many
there's
black
a
men
lot
are
more-
incarcerated now and black
could
women?
be millions. Could be millions. There could be
Right.
millions now. But
Yeah.
at the same time,
And white
I would
folks,
suggest to
white
you-
folks commit. Hold on, white folks commit crime and uses of drugs and sell drugs at 7 times or 8 times the rate of black folks.
Mark,
but
you're
black.
saying-
Hold on,
You're saying that black
because you're
people
ignoring this.
are in worse condition today in 2023 than they were in 1923. I say that you're out of
Yes.
your mind. I
Good.
say that if you believe that, there's just no sense of talking about it. Man, black folks are much better off today. There are black folks coming over here from Africa, from Haiti, from South America, trying to get in this country because this is the best opportunity right now
Yeah.
on the planet.
And you still have
Absolutely.
you still have
Come on, man.
have white folks who controlled these legislatures that are trying to pass laws and are passing laws
in Illinois,
all across the country.
in Illinois,
All across the
man.
country.
Man, we gotta go to
Passing
Springfield
laws.
then, man, because of
Oh, wait a
because
second.
Illinois,
In Illinois?
Chicago has some of the most
In
some
Illinois,
of the
let me give
worst
you
situations
a
in America.
statistics for
Man, more
Illinois.
people got
Chicago
murdered
is
here last
ground
year
zero.
than anywhere.
Chicago is ground zero for incarcerating black men.
Okay, fine.
All right.
So why is
For
who's
for
doing
low
that?
level
doing that?
who's
doing
incarcerating them?
Yeah.
Who's incarcerating
Who's
them?
incarcerating
Who
them?
controls
No, I'm telling you,
who
man.
controls the
The Democratic
controls
Party,
the-
that's who controls it.
No,
The
it's not
Democratic Party,
It's not the
that's who
Democratic
controls
Party.
it.
Yeah, I know you want to. I know you want to. I know you want to locate.
You got all this situation.
It's all
on,
over the country, Charles.
In this state,
all over the country.
Well, I'm talking about Illinois. I don't live all over the country. I'm talking about Chicago.
No,
Cook
you can't
County,
just talk about
Illinois.
it in this isolated situation.
And the Democrat part, the Democrat judges, the Democrat prosecutors, the Democrat cops,
you know who controls. Who's made all of these criminal laws across the country.
Came around, man.
No, I didn't come around.
You finally came around. You finally admitted
you want to reduce it to that, but that's not the problem. No,
because that somebody's doing it to black people. I suggest to you that black people do much better today than they did in 1923. You think it's worse. I got black multimillionaires, billionaires out there who are doing what they do.
If you're using multi-billionaires or multi-millionaires as a benchmark, today that has nothing to do with
exist in 1923. We do much better today than we did in 1923.
What about 1980?
1980.
What about 1985?
I think we are doing better now.
No,
we did.
No, we're
then.
not. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we are not.
We've had this conversation.
No, we are not. Your Republican icon Ronald Reagan and the Republican legislatures who decided to put the war on black men when Ronald Reagan came into office. 180,000 black men were incarcerated. Ronald Reagan, one bill.
Here we go.
Ronald Reagan.
Here we go. Ronald Reagan,
put it into fruition. The war on drugs meant the war on black men.
Man, I heard this from this speech.
No, it's
2 weeks ago. You did it very well.
I want you to read it though. Why don't you read the study?
Read what?
Why don't you go and read the studies?
I'm begging you.
Just Google it. Just Google
it. Give it to me, man. Mail it to my text me.
You
text me, man. I'm not gonna.
But you're the.
Not get the right.
You're the
story.
Yeah, I know, but you're the investigative reporter.
Mark, come on, man.
Come on. You're trained in this area.
Back off one thing. Black people, our ancestors, our fathers, great fathers. Listen. Yeah. They struggled. They built a better place for you. And
guess what? And every time they did it, white folks burned it down. Rosewood, 1923 in Florida.
Absolutely.
Black folks built it.
1920. Exactly.
Tulsa, Oklahoma, built it. A community. White folks burned it to the ground. So every time black folks are every time black folks are no, I'm not hopeless.
What's the end game here, Mark?
What the facts
what's the fact? Well, what's the end game?
I'm just telling you the facts are.
The facts are we're doing.
Don't try to make it seem as though black folks don't try to make it. Black folks are doing. Black folks are surviving what white folks, racist, bigot. White folks have tried to do that. I'm not talking about all white folks.
We're sitting here in a black-owned business. We're sitting in a black-owned business that I submit to you. 40 years ago would not have existed. We are progressing. We are doing things. We have people in our community who are positive, who are doing things.
And there are plenty of white folks doing all that they can to turn the clock back.
Like Joe Biden, man. Put y'all back in chains.
No, I'm not sounding like Joe Biden. I'm sounding like Mark Wallace, who understands it, and you somehow.
Man, I have great hopes, man, for my grandchildren.
No, I got great hopes for black folks.
And I got great hopes
for black folks, but I'm not ignoring the facts of what is happening.
We are doing better today than we were doing 40 years ago.
No, we're not.
Oh, come on, man.
If you are making that measurement by Michael Jordans and people like that,
no, I'm doing it by Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas.
No, you can't do it by Mark Wallace and Charles.
Why not?
Because
how come we can't?
Because
who are you?
Because that is not.
You're not a black man.
I am a black man.
I'm a black man too.
I'm not talking about people who have built.
Man, I grew up poor. I wasn't poor. I was poor.
Well, I wasn't poor.
I was poor.
I wasn't poor.
Okay, one chicken went 6 ways.
Community,
but my daddy was there in the crib, and he made sure we got some chicken.
Well, you know what? Okay. Back in the 1960s, the community that I came from, it was a white man who came out of the Air Force, who saw the need for black families to have the opportunity. And guess what? They built it and gave the opportunities. And guess what? When Black folks are given the opportunity on an equal playing field, yes, Black folks are able to thrive. But don't get beside yourself and thinking that there are not people out there that are trying to turn the clock back and trying to make it very difficult for Black folks to progress. If you are living in that kind of cloud,
I live in that cloud, brother, because I don't let anybody intimidate me from doing anything.
We're not talking about you, Charles.
No, you are talking about me.
No, I'm not talking about you.
Man.
I'm talking
Why
about
am I not
people,
a Black man? I'm a Black man. I'm a Black man.
But you're a Black man who will retire from your job.
Brandon
you know what?
Johnson is a Black man. Brandon Johnson's a Black man.
There were some people who paid the price so that you could get the jobs that you had.
And his children, and I am inspired. That is a future. I look at Willie Wilson and all that he's accomplished over these past 50, 60 years. Sophia King, Roderick Sawyer. I look at all these people, even Lori Lightfoot.
Yeah.
We have come a long way, and we need to celebrate that.
Yeah, we have come.
We need to celebrate that,
some
particularly.
But there are some people who try to turn the Black
this month, as they want us to call it, Black History Month or whatever. We have come a long way. And for you to say that we have not progressed and that we are going in the other direction.
No, I never said that.
What do you say?
I never said that we didn't progress.
Better off today. You said it was better off in 1923 than we are today.
No,
wait a minute, man. Roll the tape back.
Listen, we were better off prior to your man Ronald Reagan coming into office, who is certainly. I'm just telling you where it happened at. Man, we are still, but we are still living. We are still living. We are still living. We are living. We are living. Citizens United. We're living all of that where they are trying to turn the clock back.
What should we do? What should we do about it?
Continue to fight against it. Continue to fight against it. No.
Should we take up arms?
No, we don't have to take up arms.
Things are getting worse.
I don't believe in guns, so I don't need to take up arms.
Well, I mean, maybe
so you believe in guns.
Well,
right?
To defend myself, but certainly not to.
How many times have you had you defend yourself with a gun?
Not.
Of course not. So right. Most people don't. Most people are 3 times more likely to die by their own gun than somebody invading their home.
Like in Ukraine.
So well, we're doing the right thing by supporting Ukraine. We're doing the right thing by supporting Ukraine.
You're supporting Ukraine now, huh?
Listen, hold it. So you want for there to be boots on the ground?
I want there to be peace in Ukraine.
Hold on a second, Charles. You want for there to be boots on. Then you'd better be glad that we're supporting Ukraine to make sure that Putin does not succeed what he's trying to do in overtaking another country. Because guess what?
I do not want to send weapons over there.
But wait a second.
To Ukraine. No.
You want to send soldiers over there?
Man, I don't know anybody.
Do you want to send soldiers over there?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Then you need to be supporting. You need to be supporting sending the resources over to Ukraine so that they can fight for themselves. The Democrats don't have me. I just happen to understand. I happen to understand. I happen to understand.
You know what a nuclear weapon could do to somebody?
Yeah, we got them too.
I know, but the whole world would be incinerated.
So, look, I'm not.
Why would you?
Listen, I'm not worried about Putin using a nuclear weapon. Okay, I'm not using, but I'm certainly understand the experts who are saying and telling us that we have to support and NATO has to support Ukraine to defend themselves against Putin and a person like Putin, because if he is successful there, which he's probably not going to be successful, and he's losing his weight over there because of the support that he's getting from the other allies, he's going to try to go into Poland. China's going to try to go into Taiwan. And you're talking about, now hold on a second. Hold on a second. Because you're the person who said, I don't want to do that. No, because I'm going to defend it, because you're the person who said, I don't want there to be war. Guess what will happen? We will then have to not only send the little money that we're spending in terms of sending weapons over there so that they can defend themselves. We're going to have to put boots on the ground, and then we're going to be losing the lives of men and women because we didn't support them in stopping this person who is so drunk on power that he will destroy.
All this stuff. You think you're getting the news?
Believing it?
Because they're telling you propaganda.
Wait a second.
In order to, like the Russians,
babies are not dying over there because Russia started a war over there.
I don't know, man. Russia started it. They've been fighting over there since 2014, man. Do you realize that they took over the Crimea in
No.
2014? They've been fighting for a long time
and they
over
stopped
the
them.
eastern
They stopped them
part of this.
then.
Now, you know,
They stopped them
you
then.
mentioned Taiwan. You
Mhm.
mentioned Taiwan. Man, that is an interesting story.
Mhm.
Taiwan. I don't want to get too out, but I read this last week, and it's fact.
Mhm.
Do you know that in 1895, China was a mess? They had the opium problem over there.
Mhm.
The Japanese colonized Taiwan. They made it a colony of Japan. And when it was a colony of Japan, Taiwan, the Japanese built roads, bridges, infrastructure all over the island. World War II came and the communists took over in China, but they were weak. They couldn't take Taiwan. So Taiwan had this guy named Chiang Kai shek, who was a Chinese nationalist who wanted to kick the Japanese out, but he wasn't going to go with the Chinese, right? Even though 95% of the people on the island were Chinese, but he wouldn't go with China because I don't know, maybe he didn't do the communist thing, and the United States had taken over Japan. Right now, they're going to take Taiwan without firing a shot. You know why? Because 95% of the people on the island are Chinese and they want to be part of China. But the United States doesn't want it to go because the biggest semiconductor manufacturers in the world are on that island who were put there by the Japanese. It's a revolution. This is for the people. The people want to be free from their masters who were put there by the Japanese. And the Chinese are going to liberate them. That's what that's about.
The Chinese are going to liberate them by taking over them.
They're going to liberate them.
Okay, I doubt
realize that there are can you imagine the massive responsibility that Joe Biden has in running the United States of America? But let me finish. Let me finish the punchline here. China is like 3.5 times the United States of America. It's that big. They don't give us a second's thought about this stuff, man, that we get all worked up about. China is huge. China, this is about, we're going to go over there and fight to defend the Japanese overlords? Huh? That's what the position that we put ourselves in.
Yeah, well,
and I'm telling you, we got to rethink this stuff. Then we got to rethink it, man. And just knee-jerk go out because Joe Biden says
I have great confidence. I have great
confidence.
I have great confidence in what the generals and the advisors of what they're doing and the decisions that Joe Biden has made not to put men and women from the United States at risk, and the other allies around the country and the international relationships that are making sure that they're supporting the Ukrainian people to defend themselves and giving them the resources to defend themselves without putting our people in harm's way.
Well, our people in harm's way on the side of the Kennedy Expressway in tents and living on the side of the expressway,
and shouldn't be
that situation
and
all
shouldn't
over the
be
country. And I'm saying that if we can spend all these
and
billions of dollars in Ukraine, we can do something for the people over here.
We can,
if we have that kind of money.
We
Sorry
can.
about that.
We can, but your Republican friends don't want to.
Republican friends.
Yeah, your Republican friends don't want to.
Your
Republican friends, just like they don't want to do anything about. They don't want to solve problems.
You say Republican friends. I'm saying that I am an independent thinker,
free
thinker.
You may be independent, but those are your friends.
Well, I mean, I think there are things that they talk about now that I agree with more than the things that the Democrats talk about. The Democrats just talk about
what are they talking about?
Race.
What are they
talking about? Race.
No. What are the Republicans
division.
talking about?
They talk about school choice. You want to talk about that for a minute?
School choice.
They talk about
you mean like the school choice, like the guy in Ohio that they gave school choice
to. You can have a choice. So we don't have a school where
so that they can go over and take public dollars like they did in Ohio
50 schools
and destroy
in
them.
Chicago right now, not one student reads at grade level or computes math at grade level. We have that. I want choice. I want school. I like that idea. I also like family values.
it
We've
doesn't
talked
work.
about that here. I want to
School
talk about
choice, school
family
vouchers
values.
don't
I
work.
want to incentivize people, particularly black people,
Republicans
to begin
care nothing about
reconstituting our families.
Republicans care nothing
I want to
about
do that. Well, maybe they
educating our
don't, but
people.
they're having that conversation, and I would like to.
No,
be
they're
involved
having
in
that they're having that conversation
as
so they can
opposed to the conversation
privatize
about
our schools using our
pronouns.
public dollars.
I don't want to talk about pronouns. I want to talk about family values and raising the children that we bring into the world.
The Republicans,
I want to talk about that.
The Republicans
I want to
are
talk
the
about
last
this
people
whole
to be
immigration
talking about
situation.
family values.
I want to talk about the immigration situation too. At what point?
Why won't Republicans sit down and why won't Republicans help to resolve the problem? Because they don't
I think
want
some
to.
of the only voices in the Congress right now who are speaking out against this blank check that we're giving to the Ukrainians are Republicans. I support that. I support that. Man.
Well, they're showing just how stupid they are.
I'm an independent.
Yeah,
right
they're showing
now,
how stupid they are.
I like what they're talking about. I do not like what the Democrats are talking about, which is racial division, pronouns. They love talking about pronouns and this ridiculous war where they're sending money to the military-industrial complex by the hundreds of billions of dollars. That's who's making money on this war. Not me, not you, not the American people. We haven't sanctioned this war.
Yeah, well,
Biden is doing this on his own. And I'm telling you, man, people are getting tired of it. By midsummer, believe me.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Different story.
Hold on, Charles. Biden has sanctioned the war?
Biden is promoting and prosecuting the war.
You said
man.
Biden sanctioned the war?
Sanctioned. I'm saying that he is sanctioning it now.
No, he's not sanctioning the war.
Minute,
how are you going to put this on? Charles, you're much
Biden's the
smarter
president
than that,
of
Charles.
the United States.
I'm not going to let you get away with that one, Charles.
He's the commander-in-chief.
He is not the one who decided.
No. Look, man.
He can stop it.
Look.
Biden can stop the war.
Just send no more weapons over there.
Oh, give me a
send
break,
no
Charles.
more weapons.
So
negotiate a settlement. Don't sit there and say, I'm going to send more tanks.
The person that can stop this war is the one who started it.
Whatever.
The person.
But talk about it. Talk about it.
Well,
Don't continue to send weapons.
Why aren't the Republicans? Why aren't the Republicans saying to Putin to cease fire? Why aren't the Republicans saying that to Putin?
They do, man. You got all those Republicans. Man,
who?
Mitch McConnell wants the war. Lindsey Graham wants the war.
Yeah, but not those. Not the rest of. Not the rest of those.
5 or 6 of them. They don't
no, it's not. No, it's not. Well, so then what you're saying is 5 or 6 that are controlling the majority of the Republicans. Is that what you're saying?
These guys make a lot of campaign contributions from Raytheon, General Dynamics.
You know that.
All
but I'm
these
not
guys
talking
who
about
make the
that.
weapons.
I'm not talking about that.
That's
I'm talking about the Republicans. The
They're
Republicans who are in Congress right now, who are saying at this point, but they'll be changing their tune when they have to make the decision. They'll be changing their tune, but they're saying it now to play to a base of people and to play to some of these radicals like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
They're playing to me when they say,
"Oh, so you're a Marjorie Taylor Greene Republican."
When they say no blank check for Ukraine,
I'm
on their side.
There is no blank check.
I'm on their side.
There is no blank check.
What's been so far?
There is no blank check. No, there's not.
What do you mean there hasn't been?
There is no
We've
blank check.
We've sent them well over $100 billion.
No, we haven't sent them. First
on.
of all, the money goes out in segments. We have not spent $100 million.
We're spending
we're
money.
Allocating $100 million
We've
in support.
committed it, and we're distributing it.
Let's
and
say it like it
dispersing
is.
I get it. Okay, fine. Whatever. But no blank check. This thing has got to end. We cannot continue to fight this war.
Yes, we can.
Forever.
We're not fighting the war. We're not fighting the war. We are not fighting the war.
We're spending the money on it. That's for sure.
We're supporting. Yeah,
stuff you like to talk about, which is eliminating poverty.
We can.
I love that idea.
But the Republicans don't want to do that.
Developing.
The Republicans don't want to do that
because
they don't.
Let the Democrats.
They don't want to do it.
What the Democrats do it. Well, man, it's not about Republicans. It's about our national treasure is being spent in this country on this war in Europe when most of the people in the United States are not even from Europe.
No,
we're not even from
Europe.
Putin.
You're talking about a pittance.
If you need to worry about somebody, you need to worry about the Chinese, man.
That's
this country competing
has.
with you in the world. You realize you have anything in your house that was made in Russia? Do you? I don't have anything in my house that was made in Russia. Nothing.
I used to
Nothing.
have a lot of stuff in my house that was made in America.
Well, but I don't have anything
And
made. Why
do you have anything in your house that's made in China?
Russia?
Do you have your stuff?
I
Anything
have
in
almost everything in my house is made.
You know
in
why?
China.
You know why?
Yeah.
Why?
But and that's the country that's competing.
Because your
with
man
us.
Ronald Reagan
Oh, come on.
decided your
Ronald
your,
Reagan, you hated Ronald Reagan.
your man Ronald
was a bad
Reagan.
boy.
He
was a bad
yeah, he
boy,
was
man.
bad, all right.
He was a bad
He's the
boy.
one who
Ronald Reagan,
he's the
man.
one who decided.
You go back to Ronald Reagan
Well,
every
because
time.
I just
man.
have to go back to policies.
I man, Ronald Reagan, man,
I
was
just have to
a
go back to
president
policies.
in history, man, who
He is the one who decided
you
not
know,
to enforce
man,
the Made in America
man, you know,
Act.
you
He
have
is the
your-
one.
Fine, good.
Okay.
And he was the one who
All right.
also said put 800,000 black people in jail.
Yep.
You said that.
Yeah,
and
he did.
He did. What else did he do?
He did.
I mean, you're making your point. You make your point every week about Ronald Reagan.
Well, because
You know,
Ronald Reagan is the one
all
who
I
ignited
said,
it.
all I said was the 1980s in Chicago was boom time.
No.
Was a great
The
time.
19 no, it was not.
Well, let me
No,
finish,
it's not.
Mark. I'll let you finish. The 1980s in Chicago, we were the epicenter of Black America. We were the cultural, social, and political epicenter of Black America.
Black
we were,
businesses
and Ronald Reagan was the president, and there happened to be a Republican
had
governor.
nothing to do with
who
Ronald
was-
Reagan's
well,
policies.
whatever.
Ronald
You
Reagan's
say that.
policies forced
All I
black
said
companies
was-
to have to
all I
sell.
said was Ronald Reagan was president.
Johnson's
Michael and Oprah. All
Johnson's
these people were making all this money. Harold was the mayor.
that was not
And-
because of
and,
Ronald Reagan.
well, whatever. It wasn't because of Ronald Reagan,
And
but
you-
Ronald Reagan was the president.
And you
So
don't talk
that's
about
all I say.
economies
That's
based
all
on
I ever said.
Harold Washington.
I never
or-
went under the hood there. I never did.
Well, you should.
And never
I
did
think
go
you
under the.
should.
You've been going under the hood for 3 weeks on
Yeah.
this because you just cannot understand how Ronald Reagan, that evil man, could be president, and black people were in Chicago making all this
No,
money,
Ronald
all
Reagan.
this political
Ronald Reagan's
headway,
policy ran
all
black
this
folks
social
out of
headway.
Chicago.
Man, and
At the
Ronald
time
Reagan
that
was
Ronald
the
Reagan
president.
was the-
How in
was
the
the
world
president,
did that happen? My
12%, 11% of black,
man.
11%
What-
of businesses,
man, I'm
black
telling you,
businesses.
black people in Ronald Reagan's, man, they did all that with Ronald Reagan as president. Just think of what they could have done
No,
if
they
Ronald
didn't do-
Reagan
they didn't do that.
wasn't president.
They didn't do that
Wow.
when Ronald Reagan was
Man.
president. They were
They
in business
were, man.
long before Ronald
was
Reagan.
president from 1981 to 1989.
And those
That's when
black
he left
people were
office.
in business long before
Right.
Ronald Reagan got
But
into
they
office.
boomed during Ronald Reagan's presidency.
They
They
boomed
boomed
and doomed
Okay,
because of
you
his
say doomed,
policies.
and they doomed during
because of his policies.
during the Clinton years, doomed during the Bush years, doomed during the Obama years. They really got bad during the Obama years.
because the
We
tax
led
policy,
nation-
the tax
we led the
policies,
nation in black unemployment.
the tax
during the
policies
Obama
were
years.
the tax
Man,
policies were
it
in
was terrible.
place because of Ronald Reagan's
And
policies.
Then when Trump became president, whoa, I don't want to get you started on that.
Yeah,
My goodness.
the $2 trillion that he gave to
Oh.
the wealthy.
Oh,
the $2
man,
trillion
$2
that he
Did you
gave
get
to-
any of that?
That
Was
guy.
you wealthy?
No, I didn't get any of it.
Did you
I didn't
get
get
any?
it. I didn't get any. Of it.
Man,
I'm
I
not
tell
the
you,
super wealthy.
I didn't.
I'm not the super wealthy.
I'm not the super wealthy
course
either, but I
you
got a
did.
little money during Trump. I got a little money.
Yeah. Well, he don't.
You know,
Yeah,
little
he don't
money.
care anything about you.
Well, whatever.
You know.
All I care about is getting
In
paid,
fact, the
man.
Republicans that you worked with. I mean,
Who
what are
was
they?
that?
What are they doing with you now?
Who's the Republicans that are
You remember the people that you were?
Oh, when I was
Yeah,
working
yeah.
with the governor's race, so I still
Yeah.
talk. I still talk to them. In fact, I talked to Darren Bailey. We
And
had-
what do they want to do for black
Mark,
folks?
Mark, you asked me a question. I'm trying to answer. I talked to Darren Bailey. So how he was doing. I think he's got some political plans coming up. I'm not going to get into it because I didn't do that. But we prayed together.
Wow.
We had prayer.
You did.
Yeah, we did. And
What'd you pray about? What'd you pray about?
We prayed about our respective goals in life. We prayed about the state.
Y'all play
we
about
prayed-
black folks.
We prayed about black folks because I'm black folks.
What's he going to do for black folks?
I don't know what he's going to do now. He's not a governor. I don't think he has very many black constituents in his part of the state. However, I think that could change if he has some plans to do some other things moving forward. But he's a good guy.
He
I mean,
can still
he's a
advocate.
very
He
good
can
man. He's a
advocate
good man.
for black folks,
Pardon?
and he can advocate from black folks
he's not
as
doing
a
that.
state
I
senator.
don't think he's doing that now. In fact, I didn't ask him that.
Why not?
Why should I? I mean, I wasn't
Well,
calling the
I thought-
man to campaign.
I
I was
thought-
calling to see how he was doing.
I
and
thought
to pray
that,
with him.
but I thought
'Cause
that
he's a
you
man
were
of God.
supporting
He
him.
prays, man.
I thought you
He's
were
a praying
supporting him
guy.
because because of what you thought that he could do
Mm-mm.
in terms of helping
I supported him because I trusted him. And I trust him because he trusts in the same Lord and Savior that I do.
Mm.
And we prayed that, and I felt, I believe he is sincere in his belief. He believes I'm sincere in my belief. We talk about that more than anything. I would support him any day of the week on any number of issues because I know where he's coming from foundationally, and that is his faith. And that's what we share. And that's why I trust him.
But wait a second. But you just said that and I'm a person of faith, but now you're saying you're supporting him because of his faith.
That's what I always said. That I've always said.
But wait
that.
a second, you're supporting him. You're supporting him to govern because of his faith.
I trust him to do the right thing. He can govern. He can govern as well as J.B. Pritzker. J.B. Pritzker could not be. You think J.B. Pritzker would be governor if he didn't have $3.5 billion? No,
we
know that.
I'm just talking about why you saying that you're supporting him.
I trust him. I trust him more than I would trust Bruce Rauner. I trust him because we share a common faith, a common belief. I know that this man would do the right thing under any circumstance. There's no way he's going to hurt anybody because of how he's built. Now, if he was elected governor and proved otherwise, I would say, "Oh man, I thought you were somebody that you're not."
Thank God we dodged that bullet.
He convinced me. He convinced me.
He fooled you well.
Well, fine. He convinced me.
He fooled you well.
Because
he voted against everything that you said that you politically
voted against.
believe.
What? Tell me what he voted against.
You said you believe that you believed in the cannabis bill, right? And there being he voted against it.
Exactly.
Right. He voted
exactly.
against it.
He voted against it.
But you believed in it.
I didn't believe in it. I didn't say I believed in it.
But you talked about how inequitable it was.
It is inequitable.
You never said you didn't believe in it.
I said, if you're going to do it.
Because I said I didn't believe in it.
Me equity, that my people are going to have as many of the stores as they are in the state, then why didn't that happen? That was the point I made. That was the point. It wasn't an endorsement of cannabis stores. It was how the man governs and how he lies, how he lied about that, and how black people took it hook, line, and sinker and didn't get anything for it. But you know what happened after that?
Yeah.
After I did that commercial, suddenly a couple of black people got themselves some stores.
That had nothing to do with it.
Really?
That had nothing to do with your commercials, Charles. Had nothing to do with that fight. That fight had been going on. That fight had been going on long before then.
The fact that we didn't have
had been going on. No, that's not true. That
Look,
fight has been going on long before.
No regrets. If that would happen again, I would do it again exactly the same way. I'm fine. I'm fine, man.
I am just glad that
working for the PAC was lucrative as well. So I didn't have any problem doing what I did. And I would do it again. And if we come up again 2 years from now and the Democrats start talking about all they're going to do and how these evil white people, Republicans, are going to burn you at the stake and hang you and do all this.
Who said that?
That's what Joe Biden said 2 weeks ago.
Come on.
That's what he said.
Come on.
He said there are still people out there that want to do that.
There are.
In order to scare.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that they're not? Are you saying that they're not? Are you saying that they're not?
I'm saying that they aren't out there doing it to us. That is not happening.
You know?
Oh man, Mark.
How do you know? You just told me you're here in Illinois. You're not down in Mississippi. You're not in Ohio.
There because I would hear
really?
about it. Of course we
would. Did you hear about the police officer that shot the 66-year-old man in the back 6 times on a traffic stop?
I did not hear.
Well, wait a minute. You said that you would hear about it.
But
hold on a second, Charles. Hold on 1 second. Hold on a second.
Shot on the
hold on a second.
Dan Ryan
a 66-year-old man shot in the back 6 times by the same police officer. By the same white police officer that shot a 17-year-old
black people
on a traffic stop.
Y'all,
the same police officer.
Keep your head on a swivel.
So,
keep your head on a
but
swivel.
You're saying that it's not happening,
and it ain't the Klan that's got the guns that will kill you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's probably one of our own children who are out there doing this.
Well,
because we're not raising them.
I know you want to unleash.
We're not parenting them.
You want to unleash police officers, the cops to go out and kill more black people, to license them to go out. I want them to
arrest the black criminals and put them.
Well, what about the white
in
criminals?
Jail.
What about the white
The white
criminals?
criminals
You never
too.
say that about the white criminals.
Because there's not that many of them around here, man.
You got to be joking
You
me.
man,
Are you
Charles,
kidding me?
The people who are sticking guns in
Charles.
people's faces here are not
Are you
white
telling me-
people. They're
are you
not
telling me-
Chinese people.
Are you telling me that
They're not
that-
Asians?
So you're telling me
man.
that Illinois doesn't have any white
Of course,
criminals,
man,
right?
Of course, man. They got plenty of white criminals, but the ones that are doing the crime in the city of Chicago right now are vast majority black. Come on, Mark. We got to deal with this as part of our problem with crime.
I know that.
Not only
I know
are we
that
victims,
you all
our
like to use that
children
as a
are
scapegoat.
committing the crimes, and we've got to do something about that.
I want you to go and read the statistics. I
Bring
want you
the
to go
call
read
up,
the
man.
statistics.
Send them to my phone.
Why?
Because you haven't done that all night.
Why
You've
do
been
I have to
talking
send them to you?
Because how am I going to find them if you don't send them to me? You're the one.
You're the expert at doing this.
You're highlighting.
You're the expert at
but
doing
I'm not
this.
an expert at finding the statistics that you read, because there are statistics that will show.
I will send you. I will send you the data.
Willie Wilson.
They're FBI.
Brandon
It's
Johnson,
FBI data. You can read that right from the FBI, unless you don't believe it.
Get it, man.
Unless
Show
you
me
don't
the
believe
FBI crime stats for Chicago, and you tell me that black people are not committing most of the violent crime, carjackings, shootings, homicides
You ever watch this?
in this city.
You ever watched?
And I will.
I watched
and I
this-
will give you all the propers you want.
Okay, I watched
just
this
give me the
one.
stuff.
I watched this one thing. It's called something crimes, and they're solving murders. Right? They're solving all these murders that are happening, and it's on all the time.
48 hours.
No, it's not 48 hours. It's called something else, but I have to get the name of it. But I watched it, and I watched this thing for probably 2 hours, and every one of those murders, family members murdering another family, every one of them were white.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them are white.
Yeah.
Because the fact is,
they were in a white area.
I
don't live in a white.
The fact
I
is
live
that
in
most
Chicago.
people who are killed by people that they are familiar with. Most white people kill white people. Most black people kill black people.
Black people killing so many black people.
So
Answer that for me.
But it's not just that black folks are the only people that are killing
I'm talking
black
about
folks.
Chicago, my brother. I'm talking about Chicago. I'm talking about what's happening in this city.
Yeah, well,
in this area.
If you don't want to
we are committing
Charles,
too many.
You just
of the
want
crimes,
if
man.
you don't want to talk about the underpinnings, problems that produce. Well, if you don't want to do anything about it,
but
if you don't want to do anything about it,
we have to work on two fronts. We have to do something about the root causes.
Why haven't they done it?
Do something
why
to protect
haven't
the public.
we done it?
Because the Democratic Party doesn't do it.
This mayor,
the Democratic Party that's been in control here,
the Republicans,
for 75 years,
this mayor
has
done
said nothing to address
this
the root cause problems that you're talking
and
about.
Republicans wouldn't do it either, because you had
Republican
governors here. You've had Republican governors here. You've had Republican governors here. Haven't done anything.
In Cook County and Chicago is run by the Democrats.
Oh, you had
so Bruce Rauner in his 4 years. Okay, Bruce, that was your fault for 4 years.
No,
now, the rest of the time,
you've had your legislature had been controlled by Republicans here.
In 96,
you had let's see, Thompson. You had Edgar. You had Ryan. So you've had Republicans there. My point is, it doesn't matter what the party is. You have this woman who has been lying to us and said that she spent
Because you said it doesn't matter about the party. What do you mean?
Because I'm telling you, well, I'm just pointing out to you that the Republicans are a fraud just as well. I mean, you're tethering yourself to them. I'm saying to you that here's a lady who says,
I know what doesn't work.
You know what doesn't work? You know what doesn't work?
In Chicago and Cook County, they don't work.
More police is not what works. Trying to shoulder the problems and all of the social ills that persist in these poor and impoverished communities with police is not the answer. Okay. You are not going to arrest
your way out.
You aren't going to do it. Nope. You have to invest your way. And guess what? They refuse to do it. And the reason why I say they refuse to do it is because they haven't done it. I don't care who it is. Lori Lightfoot, Rahm Emanuel, Daley have refused to do it. And guess what? The black controlled city council, which is 40% black, 30% at the General Assembly, they have failed the black community. I call it like it is. I call it like it is. They have failed the black community. And she's talking about she spent $2.5 billion in investments in the black on the south and west side of Chicago, and not a single one of those so-called $2 billion projects that she's so-called invested in has even broken ground. Not a single. When she came into office, in light speed, she gave $2.5 billion in TIF funds to the Lincoln Yards in the wealthiest part of the city, who don't need it.
You know, those
Right.
people made good campaign contributions.
Well, yeah. So listen, I am upset with all of them across the board for not dealing with the problems that they could have done. They could have dealt with this. Is it going to happen in one term? No, it's not going to happen in one term. Can it happen in 2 terms? It could certainly make some serious progress in 2 terms. It should have been happening over the last 3 decades, but they didn't want to do anything about it. What they wanted to do is to, coddle and misuse black communities to get their votes, to do whatever they wanted to do with the resources to support their friends, and not to do the kinds of things that needs to be done to deal with the problems that produce the kinds of negative results that we see happening in our community. So I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon of blaming the victims as though that they are, the pariahs of the city of Chicago.
Well,
the pariahs of the city of Chicago are the people
Okay.
who have the responsibility to do something about it and will not do anything about it.
I'm going to blame the victims, those victims who are committing the crimes, who are putting guns in people's faces and taking their cars and shooting up the expressway and killing a 1-year-old girl and a 13-year-old boy. Those people need to be in jail. Maybe don't hunt them down like rabbits, but hunt them down like the criminals that they are.
Yeah,
because
God.
If they're going to kill a 1-year-old baby shooting at somebody, they need to go to jail, to the penitentiary. And I'm down with whoever one of these people down here who's running for mayor. I want them to get a police department with detectives to hunt them down and get them off the street, because that could be your daughter, your granddaughter, your wife, your sister, your brother, your father. And that's what's happening in the city. Those people who are murdered belong to somebody. And we have to begin understanding that the people that do this are not good people. That ain't poverty that makes you go out and go into Oak Street and start smashing, grabbing. Why you going to Oak Street? If you hungry, go get some food. Go take up the food, stick up the food for less. No, they're out there trying to get, designer clothes. These people have to be stopped. They have to be stopped. And places in the city where they're doing it are going to have to be made inhospitable to these guys that are doing this. And that's going to mean that kids like my grandsons, who are great kids, who are 16 years old, they're going to have to undergo, man, they could be stopped. They could be stopped when this goes down, because it's got to go down or there won't be a Chicago. If it doesn't go down, it won't be a Chicago.
Well, murder is a horrible, horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. But you are not going to, certainly not going to get me to talk about it in a silo as though these conditions haven't been produced and could not have been prevented by the production of these conditions by the people who we have entrusted the powers to deal with those circumstances that refuse, and I'm using the term refuse because they haven't done anything about it, refuse to do anything about it. Want to talk about this being a world-class city? I'll call it a world-class city when you are treating every neighborhood like it is a part of a world-class city. Then it will become a world-class city. But if you're defining Chicago as a world-class city by what happens downtown and just north of downtown, and you don't care anything about what happens on the west side or the south side, and then you get in front of a camera and pretend like you care because you're running for an office or you're in some office, but then you go back to the comforts of your confines and talk about those people out there, but you're not doing anything to change the condition of those people out there. I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon of saying, well, we need to send police out there to hunt them down like rabbits. If we had the same efforts or better efforts of trying to deal with the circumstances that produce that, we wouldn't have to be hunting them down like rabbits. I want the police to be just as bored in Chicago as they are in Arlington Heights, as they are in Orland Park, as they are in Barrington, all these areas that have strong economic stabilization that you don't hear about these kinds of things going on because they have resources. You hear about this in communities and areas that are economically challenged and impoverished. You have boys between the ages of 18 to 25 that is chronically unemployed at 47%. Don't expect for there to be peace and tranquility. Peace and tranquility.
The thing is that there won't be. There is no peace and
then
tranquility.
You better do something about it.
The thing is, they're going to have to do something about it immediately. They're going to do something about it now so that people who ride the red line tonight are safe, because right now they are not. They're going to do something in the short term,
not going to happen,
as well as the long term.
Not going to happen with police.
It's not going to happen with the long term.
It's not going to happen with police. Yes, it will happen with the long term if you invest. If you invest in the short term to get to the long term, it will happen.
Well, this is something I'm sure you agree with. That the great concern over crime in the cities is because it's happening in white neighborhoods now.
Oh, yeah.
That's why there's all this concern and all these political signs that I'm looking at right now.
I agree with that 1,000%. Because they don't really, as long as it was happening to black communities, they wouldn't care.
Exactly. They didn't care.
They didn't care.
They didn't care. But the thing is,
but they pretend that they do.
If you don't stop it, then all of those areas where you have some economic wherewithal are going to collapse. And that is going to happen. Maybe people don't.
No,
care.
They're not.
What do you mean?
No, they're not. They
look. Have you been on State Street
when
lately?
That
great street?
It
looks like a Gary.
That didn't have anything to do. That didn't have anything to do with crime. That had to do with the pandemic.
Man!
Listen,
come on, man.
Commercial buildings, commercial property all across the country, commercial districts.
Nobody all
across the country
is having the same problem in Chicago. This isn't just happening in Chicago.
Well, of course,
it's happening in every big city. And
those
areas like that are
bouncing back.
They are?
Yeah,
okay, good, man.
They got the billions of dollars to do it because they got the resources to do it.
I'm invested down there, brother.
You'll be okay.
I want to be okay. I want to be safe again so I can ride the train again.
You won't
I can ride the train to the baseball game. That's what I used to do. Don't do that anymore.
Well, you can get on the train.
I ain't gonna get on the train now.
You want me to come down and chaperone you?
I'm not gonna.
I'll get on the train and chaperone you to the game.
My brother, man.
Right now, I get on the train and chaperone you to the game.
You look at on that note.
I hang out on 79th and Cottage Grove right now.
Right.
Okay.
I feel safer sometimes.
I hang out on 79th and Cottage Grove
than I do at State and Madison because they go to State and Madison to get people.
Man, man. I love black folks. I love black folks. I love black folks.
We got to roll, man. Right? They played us off. They played us off. Sign us off.
All right, man. It's been a great 2 hours here with my friend Charles Thomas. We've been chopping it up tonight. Boy, it got a little heated tonight, but it's all in love. We're going to be back with you next week for another edition of The People Show right here on IntellectualRadio.com and Facebook Live and YouTube. We'll be back.
See you next week. Next week we'll have a runoff to talk about.
We'll have a runoff to talk about.